Welcome again, everybody. Thank you for coming and joining us for our latest iteration of the Exploring New Origins webinar series with Kavoya Specialty Coffee and US Women in Coffee. Today, we'll be talking about climate disruption and supply and have some exciting guests here to chat about that with all of us. Of course, and as always, just to review, all of the content from this webinar comes from questions that we heard from you guys. So we put out a survey, as you will know, and based on those responses, we're going to be talking again today about certification and ethical supply chains. We have some great speakers to chat about it for all of us today. Elizabeth Whitlow, she's the Executive Director of Regenerative Organic Alliance. And has a background in organic planning and domestic crops and resourcing, and also started in coffee. So has spent some time with us coffee people. So it's going to be great to kind of translate all of that for everybody. And then we have Miguel Gamboa all the way from Guatemala City for, again, some more perspective from both on the ground and from his experience as the coffee lead at Rainforest Alliance. So we're excited again for today to hear the two of them chat about those certifying bodies or certifying programs rather, and a little bit of information for producers and roasters just about how to consume ethically and purchase ethically as we kind of move forward in what is an unpredictable climate. With all of that, I will pass right off to Miguel to kind of kick us off talking about coffee in an era of climate uncertainty. As we're chatting, please feel free to drop any questions in the chat. We will go over a quick Q&A after the fact, but enjoy in the meantime. Miguel, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you, Sam. Hello, everyone. Nice to be here sharing some of our daily concerns and work with producers and the coffee sector as such. First of all, we will start to discussing and to setting a little bit of the context of what is happening about and related to the climate change and the climate conditions in the coffee production. As most of us should know, the volatility is increasing in terms of production trends, and this is related to effects based on the climate in the different countries, like irregular flowering, lower yields, and quality shifts. And this is affecting mostly in all the origin countries, but with some strength in, let's say, Mesoamerica and some parts of Africa. But we know that any region is free of having these climate effects. Then the other thing that happens and is coming out of this situation is that we could be seeing geographical shifts from coffee areas that could be moving upslope, and lowland regions are under pressure due to the heat stress and pests, etc. But also due to how the market is perceiving all these changes and how new options of or varieties of coffee could be tested due to these changes in these geographical shifts. As an example, moving from let's say the interest of coffees from Vietnam, from the Robustas, that now some people are looking for Robustas in Brazil, for instance. And we are also seeing in some other countries, which normally have been from Arabica producers trying to test about Robustas as well, and how is the response based on the climate conditions in that specific countries. And of course, the margins that the farmers are having, even when we are now in the high prices times, and it is not always return of these investments going to them. Nowadays, of course, the cost of inputs and cost of labor is also going up. So then the high prices could be just giving a little bit of space for some small margin. But at the end, this is just let's say, somehow the second year of it. And then we have also the regulations that we are seeing, like the UDR, but also the tariffs etc., that are giving a little bit more complexity to all this economic context. And of course, there is an opportunity through offering traceable coffee. We have seen the increase of the demand of this kind of coffees that could be given to the market, but also how to explore into low carbon coffee and the other kind of diversification models like our forestry, regenerative agriculture, which we will be talking later about it, and intercropping options. So in conclusion, the climate uncertainty demands co-investment as well between buyers, financiers, and producers. The risk cannot remain at origin alone, as we have seen in the latest, how many? Let's say, 5, 6 decades. It has improved a lot for sure, but it needs this kind of shared responsibility as well. Not you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks, Miguel. Yeah, I would really want to underscore that last statement from you about needing co-investment, and that it can't just be done on the backs of farmers. And that's historically how it seems to work, where we take those margins from farmers. And I actually wanted to expand a little bit on some of the opportunities that I've noted in my time in this industry. And I also want to make one quick correction. I'm no longer the executive director. I'm the founding executive director at the Regenerative Organic Alliance, and now a board member and advisor, but I'm doing a lot of other different projects now and not working exclusively at the ROA. So yeah, just as far as this expanding on opportunities, there is really a growing demand, and I've seen this in my whole career, 25 years now of working in the organic sector and then regenerative organic, is this constant growth and supply that can't keep up with growth. And so, these positive attributes that products can carry to market is what consumers are looking for. And so I do think that's a bright spot to think about where, we don't want to just dismiss these certifications as another checklist that a producer has to go through, but like finding meaningful certifications that carry all the way through so that consumers feel like what they're buying has value and it speaks to their values. And that's a really key part as the next generations of consumers, of shoppers are coming up. They are really having an increased demand and awareness for all kinds of certifications, authenticity of claims. And I'll show another slide in just a moment that shows a breakdown of kind of where there's been growth and decline in different certification programs. I think for coffee, I'm not working specifically in coffee anymore as I did so long ago. But really, clearly, this sustained high green coffee prices are a really defining moment for everybody in this industry. And I believe it's over $4 or $4.40 a pound and so with these really high prices, there's opportunity, I would think, for producers to be able to capture that because they've got a little bit more leverage now. So producers that are able to keep producing quality and satisfying their buyers are going to be in a better seat and a better position. These long-term kind of trusted partnerships are going to be critical. And so I think that is just an opportunity for producers to really show what they've got and to continue to capture some of that higher coffee price. The tariffs, the new regulations like the EUDR, all of these like carbon emissions also have a lot of unknowns and volatility. But at the same time, it gives opportunities for producers who are doing these types of practices, regenerative and organic, to capture that momentum and to be able to benefit from that. So I think another point that I read about was that younger people are more interested, younger generations are more interested in coffee production as a viable career as the price has gone up for coffee. And maybe this will find more investment in producing countries and countries of origin, and will continue to improve on the quality. The next slide, if you would, Sam, is this. This is from Spins, natural channel and their conventional channels, and looks at all the markets, whether it's Whole Foods and Sprouts or the conventional grocers. You can see here there's a lot of growth in the Regenerative Organic Certified, that program that I helped to launch, that has grown I believe we're at 25% this year. This is a little older. This is from earlier this year. Of course, these other categories aren't as important to you all, the grass-fed and pasture-raised, but there's a keen interest in the livestock sector. Obviously, you can see here with the growth in those markets. And certified detox, glyphosate, residue-free. There's a new clean label. People really care about what's in their food, and they want certifications that are, showing them that what they're buying has this value, and they want clean foods. If you look over there on the right side, certified fair trade took a hit. There was a dip there. Plant-based foods also have been taking a hit. And so, yeah, just thought this would be an interesting snapshot to share, just broadly looking at the growth in the marketplace. And I think that's it. You can go back to Miguel for that next slide. Yeah, back to weather volatility.
Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Well, yeah, as we have seen in the latest years, and also for producers themselves, this climate volatility and is there when we have the chance to visit the farms. I am 100% dedicated to coffee mainly, and when we have the chance to visit producers, they also tell us their stories about what were affecting them, and in somehow how being certified has helped them to support more this kind of situation, but that is also affecting them. And of course, what we have seen is the extreme variability. It could be either through frequent droughts or heavy rainfall cycles. We could see the raining cycles, the hard ones in Central America, for instance, happening around these times, which is a little bit the threat before the harvest, as an example. But also when the droughts are quite deep, there are erratic flowering and prolonged rain seasons. All these kind of situations affecting them. In some countries, there's no insurance for this neither. So then that's also another part of the challenges that they need to take. Then when we look for the different microclimates and how this rainfall distribution is becoming unpredictable, as I said, it's just a part of all this, unpredictable behavior of the climate that will affect their production. And besides that, if we also consider that in most of the countries, coffee production happens once per year, that's also the other high risk that they are facing. There's no chance to recover in the year, and the income is going to happen only once per year. That's part of all this effect that this could be causing. And of course, this is coming with pests and diseases. Either with insects like a broca or maybe the coffee leaf rot cycles that could be that are continuously affecting them. And then we could also consider which could be the adaptation responses. And as we are here is because our certification programs are promoting all these practices that could help to be more resilient to all these kind of phenomena, like the shade management, soil cover, the organic matter retention, and landscape restoration are key resilience tools that we are also promoting, and not only as RA, I would say, but also in general, the certification programs are doing the work on this path. So it is needed to be continuously pairing scientific climate data with farmer knowledge as well. The farmers, they know what they are doing. They have the heritage from their families, and the combination of all these two things could be a good source of elements to design context-specific adaptation plans. And that is what we are looking for as well on all our programs, as I have seen. Going back to you, Elizabeth.
Yeah, thanks, Miguel. It's so true. Like farmers have one chance usually every year to learn. And so maybe they've got 50 chances in their whole life if they farm from, their 20s until their 70s, to learn something and to adapt. And when climate change is making, we've got all these dramatic weather changes, And so climate change is obviously making it harder to farm, and farmers are farming at the front edge of that. Like if you imagine a cliff, they're on that front precipice, and they don't have a lot of room for error. And so the one thing that we certainly know is that regenerative practices create more healthy soil, and that creates more resilience on the entire property. And so, if we look at a general description of regenerative agriculture is a holistic approach to the appropriate land management practices with site-specific context, as Miguel mentioned, that specificity is really important. There's different microclimates, different soil types, different cultural practices. Everything is going to change depending on where you are. So you can't have a really prescriptive program and prescriptive definition for regenerative. It needs to be flexible and applicable in that site-specific context. But the one thing that is uniformly applied in regenerative agriculture is a really heightened focus on soil health. And that is going to result in higher organic matter. Higher organic matter means more carbon in the soil. So carbon sequestration is happening. You're retaining more water. Every 1% increase in soil organic matter equals 27,000 gallons more of water that is retained in the soil. Imagine the soil as a sponge. And as it gets moist, it expands and it can hold more water. With more healthy soil, there's higher nutrient exchange. So it allows the microbial population in the soil to bring the nutrients to the coffee roots that the coffee needs. So it ends up being more resilient plants, and that results in a declining need for inputs, conventional inputs especially, to manage fertility and to manage pests. And so I'd say of all things that soil health to take away today, that the health of the soil is really important, and also that improved water utilization because of these increased volatility. Level 5 hurricanes coming at people right now, atmospheric rivers sitting on top of the Northwest, major storms and floods are happening. And so if you've got a healthy soil, you can capture and hold on to that water and moderate the climate more. For the program that I was launching for the last 7 years, we really adhere to organic principles. The program, you can go to the next screen, I believe is the no, that'll come later. But really, I can talk more later about the difference of why we are looking at the Regenerative Organic Alliance, that organic principles are key. And this is because if you're using pesticides and herbicides, insecticides, fungicides, you're using something that is meant to kill things, kill life. And regeneration is about creating life and creating more opportunities for life. So for us, organic principles were key in the launching of the ROC program. And I believe we're going back to you, Miguel.
Yeah, thank you, Lisa. Yeah, it is true. I mean, all what we are promoting is to, consider basically more biological and organic ways of supporting the work and to regenerate the soil. So then that is why I think we have been in general thinking about how to facilitate the starting of these processes for producers through certifications. And people could think about why is certification as a tool? And I say, well, because the certification gives the producers the chance to establish a management system that can be followed by the group, by a cooperative, by association, etc., in order to organize themselves and to have better control of their farms in general. We have just started this year. We have launched a new standard, which is the new version of the standard, which is trying to be more realistic to the field context, but also to simplify and to try to talk more to the producer in their own language and things that they understand better, and also to reduce implementation and audit costs. This we expect that will help to them. And as a starting point, by using this standard, we can walk them through a pathway that can lead them to the regenerative agriculture process as well. So then I will talk a little bit about it later, but by using a simplified entry, but also the use of digital tools. We cannot move away from the use of the technology in agriculture, the use of smart climate system and tools is of great help as well. And we should be promoting, supporting more the use of this kind of information, to making alliances in the origin countries to facilitate the access of this information to producers as well. And as I said, this has to be done through local partnerships. Okay, we shouldn't leave alone to producers. That is the key. But also we can work together between producer organizations, cooperatives, and other NGOs. And important also to try to be more connected with the governments as well, which are the ones that are doing some of the changes that they could be needed for that. Of course, this could take time in some countries. We know about politics and these kind of things, but it's an important approach that could be or should be taken as well. And of course, the alignment with other schemes. I think there is an important communication between certification schemes to identify potential synergies and to look for the producer's interest, which is what all of us we are aiming for as a final result of our work. The objective is to have a good sector, a better sector, but of course, thinking first on how the weaker part of the supply chain can be strengthened. So what we are looking for is that certification is somehow evolving and should evolve from compliance to shared value creation to risk prevention, risk management, evaluation and management as well, and to rewarding the sustainable performance rather than just box checking. Somehow it has to be a balance between the two approaches, because there should be a way on how to validate it, to evaluate. But yeah, I'm more than convinced that certification is one good tool to support all these efforts in the supply chain.
Great.
Yeah, I'm back. Yeah.
Yep. Thanks, Miguel. I agree. After spending a lifetime working in certification and being on the ground as an organic inspector, and when we did the pilot for the Regenerative Organic Certified, really trying to make sure that we had a meaningful process that allowed for some exchange and dialogue with the farmers at the same time, and it was not simply an exercise in checking boxes, and that there was teeth in the certification program, and also that it was meaningful for the producers. And this slide here is just kind of, obviously you can see a comparison. On the left there is more like industrial, chemically based agriculture that has gotten us in many ways to where we are today. Over 35% of global emissions come from industrialized agriculture that's relying on synthetic inputs. And that don't really focus on soil health. And so really looking at what is a solution to all of these practices that you see listed here under the conventional side. The heavy use of chemical applications is losing efficacy. Plants aren't responding to pesticides or herbicides anymore, so you need to get stronger and stronger herbicides. People are getting sick because they're applying these. We don't have stable working conditions for farm workers. Also with our program had a big focus on livestock, and this unethical treatment of animals is something that we hear a lot about, as you saw in that earlier slide showing where there was a lot of growth in the market, where people are really interested in pasture-raised, humanely raised livestock products. So the Regenerative Organic Certified program, it does all of these things. We have a baseline requirement of USDA organic, and then we have these requirements for soil health and pasture-based animal welfare. There's also a social fairness criteria for the farmers and the workers, and then buyer criteria for long-term commitments. And this is a really important distinction in this program, where the buyers, the brands who are using this claim on the screen, that rock logo and claim on pack, they're paying a premium to the farmers, and they need to show that they're paying the premium to the farmers, that they're setting up long-term contracts whenever possible. And this is trying to help put farmers more in a driver's seat and give them more agency over their crop in how they're selling it to these buyers. And for our program, we have a very low point of entry cost-wise for the farmers. It's $250 a year for farms that sell less than $1 million in crop value, and $500 a year if you sell over $1 million. For producer groups, that's obviously slightly different, but we still have a very low cost and fee for farmers. And the idea is to have the licensees, the brands who are using this at market, pay the premium, and they're paying a percentage on their sales that is subsidizing the growers. And so, yeah, those are just some of the points I'd like to make on this, the program of Regenerative Organic Certified. In the middle there is regenerative, which is kind of the Wild West. There's a lot of people excited about regenerative since we began this program. It was founded by Patagonia, Dr. Bronner's, and the Rodeo Institute. That was in 2018 when we began our pilot. Since then, there's 5, 6, maybe 7 new certifications for regenerative that have come to market because consumers are excited about it. People really like this idea. It's a hopeful solution. It gives them this kind of optimism, but there's concerns that there's no legal definition. There's a big focus on sequestering carbon in the soil, but a lot of the regenerative programs out there are not prohibiting pesticides, herbicides, and GMOs, and many of them do not include any aspect of social fairness for the farmers or the farm workers. And so those are important distinctions to make. Finally, the ROA, we recognize 14 other certifications, and we do that to avoid duplication, so farmers don't have to go through this audit again and again. Basically, it kind of looks at the ROC as like an umbrella certification. And if you want to flip to the next slide, I know we're running short on time here. This is just a new pilot program for next year that is going to be introduced, where there's a journey to rock is a pilot program. And sorry if you can hear my dog barking. I'll just let you see this slide and turn on my mute, because I know we're kind of short on time. I think we're supposed to end in just a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Elizabeth. Yeah, that is well connected to what we have been doing. How do we support the mitigation, the climate mitigation, from the let's say from the certification but sustainable practices point of view. And since more or less 30 years ago, Rainforest Alliance has been working to the implementation of agricultural practices and to improving the results at the farm. But what we realize is that most of the regenerative practices that are needed, most of the producers or some of the producers that are very advanced in the implementation of the program were quite close to the regenerative production, and were already implementing it somehow. So then we created the new regenerative culture standard, which basically is looking for improving of the soil as such, improving biodiversity of the farm, improving the water access, and implementation of integrated pest management that looks for the reduction on the use of agrochemicals, and somehow the elimination of the use of agrochemicals as well, that could give back the regeneration to the soil as well, but also on the livelihoods as such. We created that as an option to recognize and support producers in their efforts to improve their soil and production actions as well, but also as a mean for companies that want to support producers in that specific pathway. We expect that there is going to be a recognition for that as well, for sure, meaning in recognition in a premium way. And now we are just creating the demand and creating the supply for the supply chain in that sense. But also for supporting on these efforts and to get more access to finance and to create more awareness of the consumers, but also in the sector, we also need better ways to measure and report on that. And that is what we have been done as well as part of our daily things, in order to have better information on impact for the partners, but also that it can be seen as a continuous improvement tool. Is part of our philosophy in that side. What other action that we have seen is the landscape collaboration. We understand that what is happening at the farm is not only at their own responsibility, but it's also a complement of what is happening in the community, which of course could improve the results and the resilience of the whole community, in which there are key specific concerns about the water management, the reforestation, but also the living income in this cooperation. So we are trying to work also into this approach to support more on the community level as well. But at the end, every pruning, every compost pile, and every tree planted within the certification systems, we see it as a small act of climate mitigation and adaptation combined. But also, if we add all the small acts, we will be making a bigger impact. So hopefully we will be seeing this in the next year, that all these efforts could become a reality for all the next generations, not only in coffee, but in general for our global well-being. Well, so that was part of our thoughts and our conversation, and of course we are more than happy to keep answering or commenting on what we have just discussed.
Great. Thank you, Miguel. I see there are some questions in the chat, but if you have not dropped one in there already, now is the time. While you do that, we'll just remind you that the capstone of our webinar series is happening in about 3 weeks. Essentially, Phyllis and Mark will be back to kind of take all of the things that we've learned these past few webinars and put that to action, understanding how we can, look forward and find some pathways to viable alternatives within coffee for both producers and roasters. While again, get those questions in, but Ange will take over for the Q&A portion.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Miguel, for talking about some important stuff today. I know I learned so much. So it looks like we have a question from Anita. From your perspective, what concrete strategies can smallholder producers in LATAM apply to adapt their coffee systems to climate variability while meeting traceability and sustainability requirements? I have a feeling that you two might have very different answers because you guys might have different criterias for your certification. So I would love to hear from both of you guys your answer to this question.
Sure. Miguel, you want to go first?
No, you can go first, Elizabeth.
Okay. I think for concrete strategies to adapt their coffee systems, I'm sure Miguel's going to have more specific about like varieties to plant and things like that. But I think one of the things that I noted in my travels around Central America, visiting some of the regenerative coffee producers, was where they had been doing kind of organic by neglect in a way, or organic by default. It wasn't a very proactive approach to organic management. And so I feel like producers really need support in learning about creating compost, or maybe the co-ops need to help get that compost from the coffee pulp delivered back out to their farmers, and really working on building the soil health by keeping the soil covered, using leaf litter and prunings. Excuse me. So that's one thing. And I would say that would be the most important. Excuse me. Miguel, why don't you take it? And I'll
I will complement what you have said, that I think the first and the main strategy that they need is to know their own soil and their own plantation. We had a project 2 years ago in Peru, basically, and we started to promote the improvement of the soil for the producers. And the first step that we did was to understand how was the soil composition and how was the plants there. And we found, unfortunately, that in most of the cases, the roots of the plants were so damaged that even with any potential and powerful product, either organic or chemical, the result won't be enough and sustainable for that specific plant. And that is basically related to the way how it was planted, the way how they got the varieties, as you mentioned, Elizabeth, and also maybe because that variety was not enough for that specific altitude and that specific context. So then knowing how is the plantation being set and the composition of the soil, I would say that is the first step to start understanding how to implement practices and how to work towards having a better resilience to the climate changes as well. And then after that, just the management of it with the use of biological and organic options as the first option for them is a good way. And I agree with you, Elizabeth, that when we have seen organic in many countries, it's not an organic system. It's just basically that they just stop to putting things on the plant. Either organic or whatever, they say, well, this is organic, but what do you put there for feeding the plant? Yeah, nothing, because this is organic.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, that's not the way how to interpret the organic parts. And in our case as well, we are trying to support the reduction on the use of chemicals. We also understand that it's not easy to move from conventional production to organic, because they could mean different threats or different challenges for them, but also learning and knowing about the use of the chemicals in a responsible way could help them to move forward and to start doing different things at their farm.
Yeah, I think also, like, picking up on that, where farmers learn best from farmers in their own vicinity, in their own region. They don't, like, when we have agronomic assistant coming in from the outside, the Green Revolution, for example, introducing technified coffee. Like, if you have farmers in their region demonstrating using these practices and demonstrating this really vibrant, healthy kind of farm, the other farmers are going to be more interested, and they're watching whatever sector. If you're talking about grape growers in Napa or dairy producers all over California or coffee producers down there, they're watching what their neighbors are doing, and they learn best from each other. So find the leaders in the community and really uplift them and help. And so I think co-ops and buyers could really do a lot probably to support this, where you find out who's growing the best coffee, who's doing the best quality, the best work, whose farm looks really beautiful, and really uplift those people to be teachers and mentors to farmers in the community. This whole field is so emergent, so much going on. When I started in this work, we thought there were 7 billion living beings in 1 teaspoon of healthy soil, and now it's like 15 billion. I don't know, it's crazy. Like, it's really growing rapidly, and there's just so much information out there also about nutrient density and the relation with quality. And certainly in coffee, this matters. In grapes, it's the same thing. Biodynamic organic grapes have the winemakers want those grapes to work with because they make a beautiful wine. And I think it's very similar in coffee.
Yeah, sort of, I have a question that kind of piggybacks off of this one. If a farmer were to transition into being regenerative, or transition Miguel into wanting to be RFA certified, how long on average does it take for a farmer to transition their farm and transition their soil to kind of fall in spec with what you guys are looking for? And either of you can answer this, or both.
Yeah, okay. I would say that, as I mentioned before, what we are aiming to is to give an entry level to the producers to the understanding and better management of their farm. So this answer is a little bit a tricky one. The question is a little bit tricky because that depends on the situation of the farm and also on the context of the farm. So then that could take from 2 to 6 to 1 year. So that depends on also the will willingness of the farmer to do the changes as well. What we have seen is that when there is a group, as Elizabeth mentioned, that is doing the changes, it moves faster for sure, because they are together, they learn together, they can have these demonstration plots, and they can go to learn to the other farmer and they start to doing these kind of things. Also, if there is already a demand for this kind of coffees, it moves even faster, because there are potential resources coming in. There is the motivation of selling it, and in some cases selling it at a higher price. So then that's also part of it. So I would say in terms of sustainable certification like that, it can vary from, let's say, 2-3 to 1 year, 2-3 months to 1 year, depending on the situation of the farm. And for the regen ag part, that's another level to say it, because at the end, once you are implementing sustainable practices, then you start to establishing goals and to defining and to learning more about your soil and to learning more about your biodiversity, etc., etc. So then that could potentially take a little bit more than 1 year for sure. But that depends on how they are using the practices at the farm.
Yep, I would add to that. It always depends where that farm is. If you take a farm, plants that are really reliant on nitrogen fertilizer, and you just take it away from them 1 year, it's not going to end well. You have to kind of transition out of that and build healthier soil while you're doing that. And that will build the resilience in that whole farm. There's an older movie called The Biggest Little Farm that really tells this story very well. If anyone is interested in this, I would highly recommend that farm, because it shows like the challenges that you have in bringing in more diversity. But with more diversity, you've got more controls for pests, and you don't have the same kind of pest outbreaks. But if you're just doing monoculture with heavy inputs, you've got a long way to go. And so you can't just like cold turkey stop everything, right? So
Totally.
yeah, so
Yeah, that
there's
makes
that.
sense.
And I noticed there's another question here about if we could give producers one step. And so I did chat that earlier, that my point was keep the soil covered and bring in diversity.
Okay, we've got a couple more questions. So Gabriella said, yeah, with the regenerative agriculture, we need to educate more. Like the coffee producer needs to be more educated about what it really is, because they get confused with the terminology. Do you have any resources available that would maybe make it easier for producers to get more involved in ROA, or to help them make sense of what it really is?
We have an entire library of resources on the regenorganic.org website, and there will be a Spanish version coming out very soon. And if there's multiple Spanish-speaking staff at the ROA, so if Gabriella is interested, you can reach out to info@regenorganic, and they will connect you to some staff who can help. Thank you for putting that in there.
Yeah, that's awesome. Cool. Great. Yeah, and if you could give one thing to producers that you can do today to get started in getting certified, what would that very first initial step be? And then also on the other end, if you could give roasters one thing they can do today to get started with supporting producers and adopting these certifications, what would that one thing be? So on both sides of the aisle.
For both of us?
Sure.
Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, Elizabeth. Okay. Well, thank you. I would say that, first of all, sustainability is not a goal, it's a way of managing the farm. And it is a continuous improvement way of working. And certification is a tool to keep or to work toward the sustainability of the farm. So in general, through the certification, they can, as I mentioned, make a management system of the farm and start to learn from different ways of how to improve their own activity. And besides that, it could be the chance to have a better price. Of course, that is what we want for the producers, to have a better price in that sense. And in the other way around to the buyers is that if they should think about the sustainability of their business, they should start thinking about how they support the sustainability of their producers. Otherwise, without coffee, they won't be having any business at all. And it's in the same way that sharing the responsibility is part of what they should be thinking about, either through projects, through knowing them. And I think certification in general is a good way to know your suppliers. We use, as part of our program, traceability as a key element of the sales and trading, because we want the supply chain to be as transparent as possible. And that is, I would say, the advice that I will give, to think about how I will keep my business in the long term and how I can just interact with my suppliers.
Nice. Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, some kind of practical steps for producers on like really focusing on the soil and getting off the chemicals. From our perspective for the Regenerative Organic Certified Program, because organic is our baseline, that you would need to start to wean yourself off of those chemical inputs and continue to focus on building the health of the soil. And there is that pilot program when I was having the sneezing fit that I couldn't explain to you, but the pilot program is intended to help producers get on the journey to rock. And there's a couple different pilots already starting right now, I think mostly in textiles and some livestock operations, but so that means it's probably ripe for a coffee group that might be interested in doing that. And this is where a brand will pair up with a group of producers and work to support them on their journey to rock, to incorporate these methods over time and give them support. And that's where roasters could really help out. And if they're interested, then certainly could reach out to me or to the ROA to learn more about that pilot program. And I think for roasters, just asking those questions is important, and ensuring that there is clear traceability and that you've got, you can go back to the farm. And for our program, because it's based on organic, that's always available. And there's that really clear pathway back to the farmers through organic audits. And yeah, that's kind of it. But I was really glad to be here with you all and happy to answer more questions if people want to stick around. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, I'm not sure if we're going to have more questions, but this has been awesome. Oh, one more. Cool. So from a timing perspective, Latin is now entering harvest season. Where in the growing season would you recommend that growers reach out to connect with these resources?
Yeah, definitely has to be after the harvest. Now they should be focused on it, but then when they have finalized the harvest, they have the chance to plan the whole year.
Mhm.
So,
Okay, great. All right. Well, thank you so much for answering all these questions. Dan, I'm going to hand it over to you to close this out.
Sure. I won't add too much. Just again, join us next time for more healthy and helpful conversations like this. Thank you again, Miguel, Elizabeth. That was just great. I learned a lot. So thank you for being here and taking the time with all of us. And thank you also for those resources. We may follow up and make that again very easy to share with everyone. Thank you for dropping all of that contact info. So I think there's some good, actionable, helpful tips that you guys shared today. So thank you so much. That ends it for today. If you do want to continue the conversation, we are on LinkedIn. Kirsten, if you want to drop that link in the chat, that would be helpful. Otherwise, we will see you next time for the last of our webinar series here. But thanks again for taking the time, everybody.
thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to
Yeah,
be with you.
it's great to be with you all. Thanks so much.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
super. Yeah, thank you. Bye.